What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, and today is the NFL trade deadline. That's right, 30 minutes from now, 28 to be exact, as I go live here. 28 minutes from now, the NFL trade deadline will commence, and the New York Giants will not be able to make any trades for the rest of the season, nor will any other NFL team. And my goodness, what a crazy trade deadline day it's been. Several first-round picks have been dealt today, several to the New York Jets. The Jets had a fire sale and shipped away two of their best players, two all-pro caliber players, one unfortunately to the Dallas Cowboys and the other one to the Indianapolis Colts. So plenty to unpack. If you guys want to talk NFL trade deadline, definitely do drop your thoughts, comments, and questions about the NFL's trade deadline at large in the chat, but also drop me your Giants questions. With only 28 minutes until the deadline, it doesn't seem too likely that the Giants are going to make a deal. We'll, of course, discuss that, why they should or shouldn't have, and everything in between, and go over all of the rumors that might have popped up throughout the day. So before we dive into the chat, do make sure to leave a like, guys. It helps the channel out a ton. And hey, a lot of you might be watching without realizing that you're not subscribed. Go ahead and smash that subscribe button for us. So we've got some friends in the chat. We've got Dre Max saying Chat Sports is live. Shout out to Chat Sports. Shout out to Marshall. Brad saying Giants will not make a trade today. You're probably right. Ruben saying haven't done a damn thing. They have done nothing. Bob saying it's sad. It is sad. Deadline Jeffrey is, yes, in 30 minutes. I couldn't answer that. He doesn't annoy me. He's the GOAT. When will the pain end? That is an answer that I've been asking for a very long time, and I still do not have the answer to. That is a question, I mean. What up, fella Paisano? Trade Brian Dable and Shane Bowen. Man, I would trade them in a heartbeat. Reports seem to indicate that the Giants are looking into the potential avenue this season where they move on from head coach Brian Dable and his staff, but they keep general manager Joe Schoen. I'm not a fan of that idea. I know many of you might be, so definitely drop your thoughts on that. But let's recap everything that went down today for the New York Giants, everything that relates to them for the New York Giants at the trade deadline. But real quick, Christian, no, we are not done live streaming games this year. We will be live streaming more games in the future. We've just had some scheduling conflicts the last few weeks. You're saying, why are we not trading the whole team? Well, I don't think there's any buyers. Who wants to buy players off of the New York Giants? The Giants players who are on the trade block, just to clarify for everybody, here's the context, here's the rumors. The Giants have several players on the trade block. Namely, they have Deonte Banks. He's been floated out by some reporters as a guy who could be moved. They have Josh Azidu. That's one that I saw from ESPN. Azidu could be traded for, a team looking for offensive line depth. Evan Neal is a player that teams have called on. The Giants have actually had discussions around Evan Neal. And finally, Jalen Hyatt. The Giants have definitely seemed interested in trading away Jalen Hyatt, but I don't know if they're going to get a buyer on any of those guys. Now, you're right. So many people are interested in Kayvon. Teams did call the New York Giants requesting to trade for Kayvon Thibodeau. The Giants told them no. They do not plan on trading Kayvon unless they get a first-round pick. Then they'll start a conversation. So after seeing who the first-round picks got dealt for today, you're talking about Quinnen Williams. You're talking about Sauce Gardner. I don't think the Giants are getting a first-round pick for Kayvon Thibodeau. He's probably not valued at that, but the Giants are setting a high price tag because they don't want to trade Kayvon Thibodeau. So we'll see what happens, but in the next 25 minutes, I am not anticipating a trade for Kayvon. I am not anticipating that the Giants are going to get a single deal done. The Giants went into the trade deadline initially expecting to be aggressive to trade for a wide receiver. That did not happen. Giants did not go out there and get one of the wide receivers that they were looking at. Sounds like Jalen Waddle will not be traded. Jacoby Myers was traded from the Raiders to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Rashid Shaheed went from the New Orleans Saints to the Seattle Seahawks. So it doesn't sound like the Giants are going to be making a deal for a wide receiver. Those are all of the top wide receivers that were on the block. Again, Jalen Waddle, probably not being traded. I do agree we should clean house. I agree with this as well, Dominic. Slayton brings nothing to the table. This Giants receiving core is not good enough. It's just bad. Darius Slayton's out there. Who's starting opposite him? You've got Wandale in the slot. I think Wandale's a pretty good player. But then on the outside, it's been a mix of Lil Jordan Humphrey, Bo Collins, Jalen Hyatt, and Ray McLeod. Yikes. Giants are trying to develop a rookie quarterback, are they not? They're trying to help their rookie quarterback be positioned for success short-term and long-term, are they not? It doesn't really feel that way. It doesn't feel like they are trying to position their rookie quarterback for success when they're giving him no talent to work with. Cam Scatterbo goes down for the season. Who's stepping in to be that extraordinary playmaker? Who's stepping in for Malik Neighbors, who's also down for the season? There isn't one. It's just a bunch of number 2, number 3, or number 6, 7, 8 guys. Like, it's a lot of the guys that the Giants are putting on this offense aren't even starting caliber players. It's a lot to ask for your rookie quarterback. And again, I made this point on yesterday's podcast episode. If you guys didn't see it, check it out. The Giants cannot ingrain Jackson Dart into their culture of losing. They've been a losing organization for the better part of the last decade. And we are now in November. It's November 4th. It seems like more than half the team has given up on the season, is not trying anymore in these games. And that's that losing mentality, that loser culture that they've been accustomed to over the last several years, coming back to haunt them once again. And the last thing that the Giants need to do is place Jackson Dart in that losing culture and ingrain him in it. That is the worst thing that they can do for his development. So trading for a wide receiver, this is the point that I really need to stress. It's not about trying to make the playoffs. It's not about being a win now team. It's not about trying to win games a season. It is, but it isn't. It's not about making a playoff push. It's about being a competitive football team so that your quarterback feels like he can be successful this season and feels like this organization wants to win. The Giants need to show that they do want to win, and they can do that by trading for a wide receiver and giving their quarterback some help. So that's essentially the point that I was trying to make. That's why they need to go out there and pick up a wide receiver, but we'll see. Michael Grinaldi with a super chat. Thanks so much, Michael, saying, what does our offseason look like? Clean house. Don't even keep the janitor. Okay, maybe keep him. That's pretty funny. Giants football can't stay like this, right? Someone help us. No, I agree with you. They should clean house. I think it's a half measure to get rid of the GM and keep the head coach. It's a half measure to get rid of the head coach and keep the GM. They made this mess together. They both need to suffer the consequences together. And I think that the Giants have a lot of promising players on this roster that a lot of really bright minds in the front offices and in the coaching staffs would love to get their hands on. So the Giants absolutely should be looking at all of their options, including moving on from these guys and bringing in new talent. That's how I feel about it. Lucas with a massive super chat. Thank you so much, Lucas. That's pretty incredible, man. I really do appreciate that. That does a lot to help us with the biz. So that's actually incredible. Thank you, Lucas. Saying, this is for the extra cushioning sore tooth and lightsaber short you made. Cracked me up. I appreciate that, Lucas. I made that video this weekend, and I want to make those a regular thing. I'm probably going to do one in reaction to the trade deadline as well. Just some funny skits for everybody. If you guys didn't see that, go on the Fireside Giants Instagram. I posted it over there. It was pretty funny. But I'm really glad that you enjoyed it so much, Lucas. That's awesome. Really do appreciate that. And thank you so much for that incredibly generous super chat. So Maskey4452 with a great question here regarding whether or not the Giants will clean house. Does the Tisch family have any say if Mara gets stuck on keeping Shane? So Mara is the guy who operates the football. The Mara family operates in the football realm. The Tisch family operates in the business realm. So you don't expect the business realm to get into the football realm. So no, not really. He doesn't have say. Mara is the majority stakeholder. He's remained that even with the 10% sale to the Koch family. Even with that sale, he's still the majority stakeholder, shareholder. So he has final say on all football decisions. They just brought in the Tisch family for cash flow and for business operations. And so that's what the Tisch family does. So no, but if Steve Tisch believes that keeping Joe Shane and continuing to do what they're doing is going to hurt the business side of things, he absolutely has an opinion to share. And that's why he's a 49%. He was 49% shareholder. They've all, divulged their interests though. But no, it's pretty much Mara's way or the highway, unfortunately. Fireside Yankees dropping in here to say hammer the subscribe button. Really do appreciate you, my friend. Everybody go check out Fireside Yankees. They've been putting out some really good content lately. I'm not a big baseball guy myself, but I've been tuning into some of their videos, and they just get better and better, I swear. Michael, I personally think if they keep Shane, we're cooked. And I'm going to make this point right here. Do you see what happened to the New York Jets today? The New York Jets just traded away Quinton Williams, and they traded away Sauce Gardner. They tore down the team. They're blowing it up. Why? Well, because a few years ago, they made a head coach hiring and a GM hiring at the same time. Those two went down a path where the GM was safe and the head coach was fired. The reason why the Jets kept Joe Douglas, that's the GM, is because, hey, he drafted a couple of all-pros. He got the Offensive Rookie of the Year and Defensive Rookie of the Year in the same class when he drafted Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner. That's how he kept his job. Needless to say, a couple of years later, he was fired. Sauce Gardner's been traded, and they're tearing the team down. And the reason why they're tearing the team down is because they let Joe Douglas continue to run the team, even though he did a bad job outside of a couple of good draft picks. That's why they now need to tear it down. So the New York Giants are on the verge of making the exact same mistakes. The exact same mistakes that the Jets made. The Giants are really bad, and they've actually gotten so bad that maybe they are just as bad as the Jets. But to do exactly that, if they sell themselves a bridge here and say, well, he drafted Abdul Carter and he drafted Jackson Dart in the same class, we should keep the GM. It's the same thing that the Jets did with Joe Douglas. They ignore all of the rest of the bad that indicates he will fail at this job and you will be tearing it down in a couple of years. That's what that should indicate, all of the other mistakes that he's made. You can't give him a pass for all of that just because of a couple of good draft picks, in my opinion. It's about the collective body of work, and the collective body of work isn't good enough. The Giants are 2-7 to start the season in each of the last 3 years. You got to try to be that bad, in my opinion. So I think they should clean house. And I think we're cooked if we keep him. I think we'll go down the same path as the Jets, and I think in 3 years from now, we'll be trading away all of our good players just to stockpile some picks. Like I'm telling you, if they keep Joe Shane, year 4 or 5 of his career, they're probably moving on from Malik Neighbors for draft picks because they absolutely messed up everything else. So I don't want to see that happen. Yeah, he's not a deadline deal guy, Charles. This is a good point. Joe Shane makes a lot of trades. He's made a ton through his time with the New York Giants, but not at the deadline. Usually he gets those done around free agency. He likes to bring in Darren Waller. He brought in Brian Burns. And, hey, the Brian Burns trade was spectacular. Trading up for Jackson Dart, spectacular. He's demonstrated an ability to make good trades. But in-season trades, he hasn't really done much of. But, again, I stand firm on my opinion. The Giants cannot ingrain Jackson Dart in this losing culture. They need to show that they want to win. They need to go ahead and bring in some talent, in my opinion. Or at the very least, get rid of some of these bums that are just wasting space on this roster, like Evan Neal. They have no interest in putting him on the field. Why is he on the roster? What rating would I give him? I would give Shane a D. I think that you look at the Daniel Jones contract and the way that set the team back by 2 years, and you have to really penalize him for that. He let Xavier McKinney walk out the door. You have to penalize him for that. You have to penalize him for letting Saquon Barkley walk out the door. Yes, he brought in some good running backs in Tracy and, of course, Scadaboo, who you guys know I love. Yes, he did potentially find a franchise quarterback. Yeah, he did bring in Malik Neighbors and Abdul Carter. He made some good moves. He also brought in Brian Burns. He's made some good moves, but he also has put a product on the field that has set the team back. They've been losing football games for 3 straight seasons. This is a wins-losses business. It's not a draft picks business. You pick up a good player in the draft. If you don't win games, what's the point? I don't see a point. You have to win games. So everyone needs to be held accountable, like Jeffrey said. And I just think at the end of this year, you try something new. I give him a D+, I think. So that's where I'm at with it. The chances are pretty high. From what we've heard, according to the reporters, they do not work as a duo anymore. They're very much individual compared to how they used to be. They're a lot more individual. So I don't think they're best buddies anymore, guys. I mean, we all saw the Hard Knocks clip or whatever it was, the inside clip where it said that, it was Joe Shane, and he said, "Oh, we're going to get you your guy. You feel convicted of him? We'll roll the dice for you, Brian Dable." That's what he said about picking Dart. It wasn't like he was convicted. It wasn't like, "Hey, I'm Joe Shane. I want Jackson Dart." It was like, "You believe in him? Okay, fine. We'll do it." That's kind of how it was. Shane made it very clear in that moment to me that he was not working as a collective with Dable, and he was doing a favor for Dable almost. Fans may be in pain, but the real victim is Dart. Thank you for the super chat, Kevin. I 100% agree with you. We're all in pain. We have been for a very long time. But Jackson Dart's development is also at risk if you don't bring in somebody to help him. Again, it's not – listen, Dart's really good. The offense is scoring points. They're moving the football, and it's because of Jackson Dart. He has transformed this offense. We were sold this bridge in the offseason that a quarterback will change the landscape of the team. It'll change the offense, right? It has. The offense has completely changed, night and day difference. It's a lot better now that Jackson Dart is in the lineup. However, what hasn't changed is the wins and losses. The losses are still continuing to pile up. And what also hasn't changed is the culture. The Giants still have a loser culture. Jackson Dart's development is not at risk because the offense is terrible and he's not able to score points, because he is able to score points and he's made the offense good. Jackson Dart's at risk. His development is at risk because the losing takes a toll. Look at this team and how the losing has taken a toll on all of these players. As confident as Dart may be and as confident as we may be in him, we may say, oh, that's not going to affect him. He's got a killer mentality. We don't know that for sure. And we can't run that risk. You got to preserve the kid's mental health and in so preserve his development. That's what it is. WJ, thank you for the super chat saying Joe's lack of aggression to help his quarterback has been his MO since 2022. How are we going to evaluate Dart if he's throwing to plumbers? Rashid Shaheed went for a 4th and a 5th. Yeah, Rashid Shaheed went for a 4th and a 5th. Jacoby Myers went for a similar price tag. I think he went for a 4th and a 6th. And there's other guys out there. Jerry Jeudy is an example. Last year, he went for a 4th and a 6th. He's probably worth even less than that now. You probably get him for a 6th or a 5th. He's a monumental upgrade over everything the Giants receiving core. Now, listen, guys, I know Jerry Jeudy's not perfect. He's got a drops issue. I understand. Still a better player than Darius Slayton. Still a better player than Ray McLeod. And for a 6th-round pick, the Giants have 3 6th-round picks. You're telling me they can't get rid of one of those 6th-round picks to bring in a veteran player to give Jackson Dart a dependable receiving target? Get out of here. Are you kidding me? What's that 6th-round pick going to turn into? Darius Masua 2.0? What are we going to do with Darius Masua 2.0? How is that going to help this team more than having a veteran receiver like a Jerry Jeudy on this roster? And I know, again, Jerry Jeudy is not the ideal option. He's not really a long-term fix-it-all solution here. But is he not a short-term upgrade for this New York Giants team? Are you guys, even those of you who think Jerry Jeudy sucks, he's got a drops issue, you're not going to sit here and tell me that he's not better than Ray McLeod, Lil Jordan Humphrey, and Jalen Hyatt. He's a better football player than those guys. And you could probably have him for a 6th-round pick at the most expensive rate for 2 day 3 picks. You could probably trade Jalen Hyatt in a 6th and get him. Get Jalen Hyatt out of here. Bring in any wide receiver. I'm using Jeudy as an example, but take your pick. Take your pick of who you want it to be. The Giants have just sat on their hands today. 10 minutes left until the deadline. They've done nothing, and they're not going to do anything. I understand. Listen, they're going to have a nice pick next year. They're going to probably have a top 10 pick. And that top 10 pick is probably going to be spent on a wide receiver. That's great. How does that help Jackson Dart? How does that help prevent Jackson Dart from losing his mind and being ingrained in your culture of losing over the next 10 weeks? How does that help him? Jeffrey Olave is working on an extension with the Saints. It sounds like they are not going to trade him away. Hey, listen, you can evaluate both of them independently, I think. The coaching, yes, has been bad, but the general managing hasn't been too great either. The Giants have, let's see this. Let's get the exact number for you guys. How much cap space do the Giants have in 2026? How much do you think they have in 2026? A lot of people think, oh, we have plenty of cap space next year. The Giants are down to $15 million in cap space next year. Why? Well, because they have to keep restructuring contracts and moving things around because they don't have any cap space right now. They don't have any money to work with this year. They've got $5 million, among the lowest in the league, and they don't have any money to work with next year because you know how quickly that dries up? $15 million in cap space. What are you signing? Well, you have to extend Jermaine Illuminor. There goes 8 of that. Okay, now who are you getting? Nobody. You got to walk into the season with $5 to $7 million in insurance. The Giants have no money to spend next year because of the way that Joe Schoen has operated. And that's with Daniel Jones' contract coming off of the books next year. They don't have any dead money next year. That's a good thing. That's a positive, I suppose. But that's a 41-man roster, and they have $15 million in cap space. It's a 41-man roster, and they have $15 million in cap space. There's 10 other players that they need to add to that roster. Not good. It's not good. They don't have a bright financial future is what I'm trying to say. Not until you get to 2027. And by then, now you're talking about, okay, now we got to extend players like Malik Neighbors. So, yeah, and we have guys who are healthy scratch. It's a great point, Michael. Like we have players on this team that don't play. Why are they on the roster? Why not save the money? Why not trade them? No, it doesn't, Jordan. I don't think it does. I think it goes by a projected cap space for next year, which isn't the exact cap growth. So I don't know. Maybe it does have the projected. I actually don't know. I'm sorry, Jordan. I don't think it does, though. I don't know how over the cap does that. I'm trying to look, but it doesn't really clarify. Yeah, there's nothing invested in this offense other than $36 million to Darius Slayton. Anthony, this is a great question, and I thank you for the super chat. Who would I handpick as the head coach? I haven't really decided on that yet. Like who I would personally handpick. I'll give you a few options, but I can't give you one. I mean, Mike McCarthy comes to mind because he's a winner. He goes to the playoffs every year. And he's not really – he's a guy who's – yes, his Cowboys teams choked a lot in the playoffs, but, I mean, they won 12 games 3 times under him in 5 years. So if you want somebody who's established – I'm trying to give you guys options. So don't be like, oh, McCarthy, you're an idiot. He's not the one and only guy that I'm saying that they should hire. I'm just giving you options. If you want experience and a guy who can return you to competency, it's McCarthy. If you want somebody that you're familiar with who's experienced and has been a head coach before, maybe you try and lure back Steve Spagnuolo. I don't know if he wants a head coaching job, though. He probably doesn't. If you want to go with an offensive mastermind, you probably look at Kubiak. You probably look at anybody in the LaFleur tree, anybody in the Shanahan tree. If you want to go with somebody more defensively minded but young, you can look at Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator of the Chargers. There's a lot of options. This is a good year to need a head coach, in my opinion. Robert Saleh, I see Jordan say that. That's it's a good time in Charles. Jesse Minter. I like Jesse Minter a lot. I love the Chargers. I love everything they've built over there. So no, I don't think so, David. I know that there's a narrative that John Mara meddles, but he really doesn't in terms of that. Like, he doesn't say you can or can't do things. Like, even when he said to Saquon Barkley, for example, he told Saquon Barkley, we're not going to trade you. You're too valuable to this team. That's what he said to Saquon Barkley. Meanwhile, Joe Schoen did try to proctor a trade for Saquon Barkley because John Mara did not say you're not allowed to trade him. He said that we don't want to. That's what it was. So he lets the GMs do their job, for better or for worse. Kingsbury's another one. Yeah, I would definitely be interested in Cliff Kingsbury. Big Bang. McCarthy worked out great for the Cowboys. I don't really understand this narrative. The Cowboys went to the playoffs 4 straight years. They won 12 games in 3 of those years. It worked out pretty freaking good for them. They had a very good roster that, had they been better in the playoffs, I mean, their roster was one of the best in the NFL over the last 4 years. They have more Pro Bowlers than anybody in the last 10 years. McCarthy worked out for the Cowboys. He turned that franchise around. So kept them relevant despite the fact that maybe they shouldn't have been. So he worked out quite well. WJ says, why does Joe hold on to assets he never resigns like he's doing with Neal and Hyatt? I don't trust his ability to manage assets. Neither do I. And I don't understand why he's holding on to guys like that. I would take literally anything for either one of those players because the Giants are getting nothing out of them right now. So you got to try and get something. So Ryan, is there any rational argument to be made for an inactive trade deadline? Okay, so if I'm trying to attack it from that angle, the argument would be that this team is 2-7. They probably feel as though they're not going to win more than 4 or 5 games, and they want to build through the draft, and so they want to hold on to as many of their picks and assets as possible. So that's the argument for not buying at this deadline. They feel like they're going to lose, they're going to get high picks, and they'd rather use those picks. Okay. The argument for not selling at this deadline is a little bit tougher because guys like Jalen Hyatt and Evan Neal are non-factors on this team. And there were teams that did call with interest at last year's trade deadline for both of those players and at this year's trade deadline. So out there somewhere, there's a deal to be had, even if it's just for a 6th or 7th round pick. They're not even playing. They're legitimately just on the sidelines in gym wear. So there's really not a strong argument not to be a seller at this deadline because the Giants have very clear and obvious players that they don't want on their team that they need to sell. So to be completely inactive, there isn't a rational argument to me. Tried to find one, but the Giants aren't going to tell me that they believe Evan Neal is going to turn around, that they believe Jalen Hyatt's going to turn around. If you believe that, you'd be giving them reps. I agree, Jonathan. Get anything you can for these guys. Strong to Prosper Fitness, thank you so much for the super chat saying, what do you think about Doug Peterson? I'm not crazy about Doug Peterson. I think, yes, he won that Super Bowl with Philadelphia. And that's the highlight of his career. But after that, it never seemed like he had a good grip on how to get back to that moment. And I think that his management in Jacksonville was really poor. I think his game management, his clock management, his player development, I'm not crazy about Doug Peterson. Charles saying, if Shane is fired, what do you think of Brandon Brown as a replacement? I would rather just clean house. I don't want anybody from within this operation being promoted. I think that's, it doesn't make sense to promote from within when the product has been so bad. Everybody should be held accountable, Everybody should be held accountable. Kappa might go up big next year, but let's see. We think that because of the way that the media has boomed for the TV rights and everything. Meanwhile, right now, you can't watch these games on ESPN and YouTube because projections are one thing, but there's just so many threats to the business of football that you can't project. So yeah, it's actually, Spyro, great point here that I need to make because people don't know this. I know this because I write articles about this team every day, so I see what's written on the website about their front office personnel. They made an update to their roster, to their website sometime in the last 2 years. They used to have under Brandon Brown's bio on Giants.com that he played an instrumental role in putting together the 2022 NFL draft class. They no longer have that underneath his bio. So that draft class hasn't panned out. It's not looked good. And so they took that out of his bio because at the time that they had it in there a couple of years ago, they had high grades for that draft class coming out of the draft. And so they were putting it in there as a praise to him. But at this point, it's not a praise. It's an indictment. So they took it out of his bio. So it's crazy detail and nobody knows about. I agree, Tree Squirrel. I don't know how you're going to convince. Let's say the top candidate is a Mike McCarthy. McCarthy's not coming in here to be an undermine or to be an underling to Joe Shane. He's going to want to come in with somebody else. So, guys, it's 4 p.m., 4:01 actually. The trade deadline is passed, and the New York Giants did F all. They did nothing. They didn't make a single deal. Drop your thoughts below. Give me your thoughts down below. I mean, whatever. Oh, yeah. So that's your New York Giants for you, man. You know, it was a good question. What's the rationale for having an inactive deadline? I actually don't know. I don't know what the rationale would be because at the very least, they should have gotten rid of some of these players that don't want to be on the team. It was reported as much this week that neither neither Evan Neal nor Jalen Hyatt wants to be here. They both are hoping for a change of scenery. Neither one of them got a change of scenery. The Giants are just holding on to guys who are healthy scratches every week. They're just wasting roster spots, essentially. So when they inevitably watch Evan Neal walk in free agency for nothing, what are we going to do? We're going to complain that they didn't trade him. Duh. And the Giants are going to feel stupid for not trading him. The Las Vegas Raiders called the New York Giants with interest in trading for Evan Neal. Why didn't they get a deal done? The Giants should have twerked to get a deal done. Whatever. So no trades today for the New York Giants, a completely inactive deadline. What is wrong with Joe Shane? That's a pretty good question. Yeah, listen, Tree Squirrel, a 7th for Neal. I'll take a conditional 7th, even if it's not a guarantee. Give me something. Give me some opportunity to get a pick out of a guy who's wearing sweatpants on the sidelines every week. A former top 10 pick. The only reason that the only argument that they would have for not trading him is that they would be embarrassed to do so because they spent such a high pick on him. I don't care about your embarrassment. I care about the future of this team. Michael with the super chat, thanks so much, saying, how are we able to see issues, but the pros can't? I wonder that every day. I don't know, man. Yeah, I would have traded Evan Neal for anything. In fact, I would make the argument that if the Giants could have shed Evan Neal's cap space by trading him, they should have just given him away for nothing. Yep, they kept on. I mean, they're so bad at getting value out of their assets. They waste assets every year. They do this every trade deadline. And then these guys walk in free agency and they get nothing. What's going to happen to Jalen Hyatt, guys? He's going to get cut. He's not going to get traded in the offseason. He's going to get cut. And the Giants are going to get nothing for him. He'll get waived probably sometime during the season and somebody will pick him up. And the Giants will be sitting here with absolutely nothing to show for it. It's inexcusable to me. I really don't know how you explain it. I don't know how you explain it. So, what are you going to do? And I get it. Listen, they had no trade value, these guys, but it wasn't no trade value either. They didn't have a lot of trade value, but pretty disappointing. I was hoping I'd hop on here, do a live stream, and we would celebrate a big trade. I agree, Michael. They should clean house. Yeah, right, Christian? I think he's going to get cut anyway. Somebody else is going to pick him up for free. All right, guys, I got good news. Michael, that pissed off raw emotion from Alex is on the way. Mrs. FSG, very nice to see your pretty eyes in your profile picture saying, my cat has more common sense than this team's management. Shout out, oh man. Definitely more common sense than Joe Shane and Brian Dable. Yes, Michael, Alex is going to be joining the live in a second here. I called upon the big dog. Yeah, I'd keep Carmen Brasillo. He's done a good job with the offensive line. The offensive line is a lot better this year. And that's without Evan Neal being in the lineup. Oh, by the way, they didn't trade Evan Neal. Yeah, Manny, they did nothing. No trades. Shout out to the whole 3,000 of you that are chilling in here from YouTube and Twitter combined. Really do appreciate it. Darion, I agree. Not trading anybody is absolutely horrible. I totally agree. I mean, listen, if they didn't want to spend assets to pick up a wide receiver, okay, I guess I see that argument. But to just hold on to guys like Evan Neal and Jalen Hyatt and get nothing out of them, what are we doing? Bob, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Dexter Lawrence wanted out. I would not be surprised. I think, listen, there are fans that were advocating for trading Dexter Lawrence. I got to say this. Out of your minds, generational talent who's had a couple bad games this season, and everybody wants to trade him. Overreaction like crazy. Yeah, but Bulk, the new GM isn't going to be able to see potential with Evan Neal. He's a free agent. He's on an expiring contract. With Jalen Hyatt, it would be different. You know, you can make the argument because, yeah, maybe somebody would step in and say, I like Jalen Hyatt. I want to keep him here. Evan Neal's not going to be here next year. He's gone. He's gone, man. Gone in free agency, and the Giants will get nothing for him. What are they going to get? A comp pick for him? He's not going to get paid like that. He's not going to get paid. So, all right, the big dog is ready to bark.
We did fucking nothing. We never do.
Yep.
Fucking blow. The Giants are once again a no-show. Okay. What do we expect?
All right, so listen, here's the thing that I got to get off my chest here, Alex. Do you know how many picks the Giants have next year?
Like 6, 5?
Okay, they have more than that. Specifically, do you know how many day 3 picks they have?
Day 3? I mean, we have a first rounder, we have a third rounder. I mean, we must have 4, 5? 5?
They have 1 4th round pick. They have 1 5th round pick. And they have 3 6th round picks. They couldn't trade one of those 6th round picks for a wide receiver. Like, seriously?
Nobody.
They couldn't find a single receiver out there to upgrade and trade a 6th round pick for. Are we kidding? Jacoby Myers went for a 4th and a 5th today. Rashid Shaheed went for a 4th and a 5th today. You couldn't find a guy that's one step beneath those guys for a 6th round pick when you have 3 of them. What the fuck are they going to do with 3 6th round picks? Who are they going to bring in with 3 6?
They're going to trade
like I said,
up.
They're going to get Darius Masua 2.0, and Darius Masua 3.0. Fantastic.
You want to know what really pissed me off the most today, and I'm seeing comments already about it, is that our 2 biggest rivals got significantly better. The Eagles land Jalen Phillips, who, by the way, Howie Roseman is a freaking genius. Like, if they lose Jalen Phillips in free agency, they get a compensatory 3rd round pick back potentially in 2027. Joe Shane is getting laps ran around him. This dude is standing in the middle and watching everybody go by. He's standing in the middle of traffic, man. It's embarrassing. Like, this is like, you look at Dallas. I mean, look, I'm not going to say here and say Dallas makes all the best decisions, but they got Logan Wilson and Quinnen Williams. Their defense just got substantially better. We're sitting here, tail between our legs, wondering, well, I wonder if Jackson Dart will survive this season. They needed to give him some freaking support. And listen, a lot of people make the argument, Anthony, I'm going to present it to you too. Maybe ownership said, Joe, you're not making any moves. I don't think that's true. I don't believe that either, because why on earth would why would he have a job if he's not allowed to make any moves? I don't think that's necessarily realistic. But you want to know what it did tell us, though? Nobody wanted to give up an ounce for either Jalen Hyatt or Evan Neal. They were completely valueless on the open market.
Okay, but,
0.
But I don't buy that. I really don't.
You don't think he didn't? try to trade him?
There were several reports from several different reporters around the country that said there were teams calling about Evan Neal. You were telling me you couldn't figure out something to get a deal done, a player swap, a pick swap, a conditional
Anything.
pick. I mean, if the Raiders called them several times looking to get a deal done, as we saw with these reports, the Raiders called multiple times on Evan Neal. They were in contact for over a week on Evan Neal. They couldn't get a single draft pick or a player swap or a conditional pick. They couldn't get anything for Evan Neal. He's going to walk into free agency and they'll get nothing. He's not going to get paid enough to get a comp pick. They're going to get nothing in exchange for him. That's just awful asset management.
Well, you want to know why they didn't trade him? There's only one explanation. The
Incompetence, gross incompetence. What's the explanation?
Joe Schoen's just saving face. He just doesn't want, at the end of the day, the receipt to say, I traded my 7th overall pick in my first draft for like a 7th round pick in the end of the day before we didn't even pick up his 5th year option. That's what he doesn't want the receipt to say. It's all about optics for Joe. It's not about success or failure, making the right decision for the team. It's about optics. We now have a general manager that does not do what's best for the organization, does not do what's best for the team. Why is Shane Bowen employed? They're not doing what's best for the Giants, guys. We have 2 guys in charge that have power in this organization that do not care about the best interest of this team. It is obvious to us. It is clear to us. I mean, the lack of moves today spoke volumes about what their plan is, and I think more so a lack of the plan. There is no plan. The plan wasn't to be here. And look, Deonte Banks, this is the only time, and Anthony, this is the one that really pisses me off. If you exclude Jackson Dart from this conversation, the Giants have only picked, and mainly because, if you look at Jackson Dart, they actually had to move up into the first round to actually get him. The only first round pick the Giants naturally had out of the top 10 is one of the biggest busts we've had in the last decade.
Yeah.
That's the only pick the Giants had of the top 10 was Deonte Banks, who's ultra charming, ultra soft. I get more value from my actual toilet paper than watching him play. So, that's the kind of truth here, is that the one time we had a pick that wasn't in the top 10, it wasn't a layup, wasn't Neighbors, wasn't Abdul Carter, it was Deonte Banks. I don't know how people trust, and people say, well, look at other GMs, look at their track record, look at this, look at that. I don't care about other GMs. I don't care. I look at his track record. The whole 2023 draft class was a miss. The whole draft class, the entire, was it 6-7 picks? Every single player was a miss. 2024 also, Andrew Phillips hasn't lived up to the hype just yet. I mean, I really like him, but I think that, coaching is a complication. You look at all these players, man, like it takes them years, 3, 4, 5 years to reach their potential, and that's gross incompetence.
Yeah, listen, I'm going to make another point here on this. So, for example, let's say that the Giants didn't feel like it was right to trade away draft capital because they wanted to hold on to it and maintain their assets for the future, right? Then why not be more aggressive to obtain draft capital? Why do nothing? Why not? If you don't want to be buyers because you don't want to sacrifice your draft picks, okay. Well, why not go get more draft picks? Why not be sellers? And I get it. There wasn't value in these guys. I don't buy it, man. You've got to have an option here. Like, there's just no way that they couldn't get anything for any of these players to me. Deonte Banks is a former first-round pick. Evan Neal is a former first-round pick. How often do we hear former first-round pick traded, former first-round pick signed? These guys hold some value because of their pre-draft profiles. I can't believe it. I really can't. I think it's insane. And I think when you look at the Giants draft capital and you look at the wide receivers that were on the trade block and what they got traded for, they should have been able to get a deal done. And like I said, it's not about trying to make the playoffs this year. It's not about that. It's literally just about the fact that the Giants need to try to support their rookie quarterback. And their rookie quarterback is now going to be unsupported for the rest of the season. He's going to continue to play with a poor coach coaching him, with a poor coaching staff, let's say, with minimal help in the playmaking department. They should have had an avenue here to bring in some support for the quarterback. And I feel bad that Jackson Dart is going to have to continue to do it basically all by himself for the rest of this season.
Yeah, I mean Jackson Dart. And here's the thing: like the adversity is legit. The adversity is legit. We saw this. We saw the drops last week. I mean, Theo Johnson can't catch. We know that. Darius Slayton can't catch a cold. Wandale Robinson is the only piece on this team that has hands. Apparently, like they're just gonna let Dart suffer. But maybe, I mean, listen. At this point, I think Joe and at least Dable definitely feels like he's gone. Right? Dable probably feels like whatever. Like, why am I going to? And to be honest with you, Anthony, you want to know why they're not firing Shane Bowen? Because it means Dable has to work harder and it has to actually do something. It has to now pivot from the defensive plan, has to pick up the pieces, has to transition, has to actually do something there. At this point, I think he knows he's cooked. He's keeping Bowen around because he's going for the simple route. He just doesn't want anything to change. Like, why change something when you're already in? Like, changing Bowen out is not going to be the big difference maker of this season. The season's already toast. I think Dable is just taking the easy way out. I know I'm done. I know I'm cooked. I'm just not going to do anything more that puts more stress on my lap. I legitimately think that that's the case here because there is no excuse for keeping Shane Bowen in a role that he currently is not qualified for. And you see the stats. Like, this dude has the worst efficiency of any coordinator in the NFL, and it's by like double the next guy. It's historically bad.
The only reason that Shane Bowen has his job is so that Brian Dable can try and scapegoat him at the end of the year. That's it. That's all it is. He's a human shield. He's not a coordinator. He's not a coach. He's just a human shield for Brian Dable.
I'm so over this stuff, though. Like,
it's always finger pointing,
4 years,
blame allocation.
How about Wink Martindale, our corner? Dude, we fired what was his name? Our cornerbacks coach. We brought in another coach, and this cornerback group is one of the worst in the league again. So it's like, it's just like they bring in guys.
That's because they don't have talent. Like, yeah, Cordell Flott's been good this year, but it's a talent problem. That's a general manager problem.
It is. I mean, it's a GM problem. They don't have a lot of talent. It takes many, many years. It takes individual effort. Like, when we look at Dexter Lawrence and people are pointing at how poor he's been this year, you know what I'm watching when I see Dexter Lawrence? I don't see a player that doesn't have talent. I see a player that's not necessarily trying. You know what I mean? Like, look at what the Jets did today, right? I'm not saying the Giants should do that by any means. I don't want to trade Dexter Lawrence. But if you look at what the Jets did, they traded Sauce Gardner. They traded Quinnen Williams. They traded all these guys. And the point is they're going to go to winning teams. I mean, not that Dallas is a winning team, but like, Sauce goes to the Colts, who's a winning team. I guarantee you that he's going to have a much better year. Like, he's going to pick up the pieces. He's going to look like an all-pro because players feel the aura of your organization. They feel like a loser when your team is a losing team. The Giants, Dexter Lawrence has been on a losing team for 4 straight years, right? 4 straight years. I don't blame Dexter Lawrence for lacking effort. This dude smiled one time this season, and it was after that Eagles win, and then Scatterboo goes down and things start to deteriorate. The coaching staff is dragging these players down, as Bulk Crusha is saying in the comments. And, listen, the truth of the matter is, I don't blame him. Dexter Lawrence, I know you get paid a lot, but these guys are human beings. They're demoralized. They fought. I mean, Dexter Lawrence was looking much better earlier this season, so the injury is not a concern. I legitimately just don't think he's trying.
I actually just don't even agree with this narrative. I don't think he's playing as poorly as everybody says he is. I think it's ridiculous.
He's not. But there was a couple of moments in this past game where he could have made a play, and it just didn't look like he was going 100%. But that's the case for a lot of these. Look at Deontay Banks. You want a perfect example of guys who don't try? The Giants reward players that don't try. Deontay Banks every single week avoids contact in the run game. It's like straight up avoids contact.
And his playing time has gone up.
And his playing time
I know that has a lot to do with injuries and such, but
of course, so I would bench the absolute shit out of Deontay Banks. You have to set a standard for your organization. I don't care if Deontay Banks is getting cooked or whatever. Somebody else is getting cooked out there. If they're trying and putting maximum effort, they deserve playing time. The Giants reward players who do not play hard, and it's been a standard for many years, and it will continue to be a standard under Brian Dable, and that is why he has to go. And let's not pussyfoot around and pretend like John Mara doesn't see it himself. He watched Deontay Banks bitch out and not try to tackle Brian Robinson, got his ass freaking waxed, put on the freaking ground, no effort, nothing. He saw that. You don't think he saw that? Who do you blame for that? You blame the coaches. You look at some of these players. I saw even Andrew Thomas walking around, not finishing through the whistle, not finishing through plays. Jackson Dart gets tackled from behind because Andrew Thomas just stops blocking. We have big time players on this team not playing hard. not playing through the whistle. That is a freaking, you can blame the players too. That is an organizational issue from the top down. They need guys who are going to demand that. And if you can't demand that, you look at the 49ers, why are they 6-3? Because they try. They play hard. They have respect for their coaches. They buy in. Big difference.
Yeah, it is a big difference. That's something everybody always loves to say. Oh, the Giants have so many injuries. They can't overcome the injuries. Why are they always so injured? I mean, listen, other teams have these injuries. These injuries don't kill these other teams the same way that they kill the New York Giants. Number one, because the Giants don't have enough depth because of their poor general manager. And number two, because they're a bad football team. Like, that's literally all it boils down to. They're a bad team. That's why they have these injuries. But all these other teams, the Niners, perfect example, battling through these injuries. How about the Bengals? They had an injury to the quarterback position, right? Joe Burrow goes down. They're like, yeah, we're going to trade for Joe Flacco, and we're going to go out there and actually compete in these games. They said, we're not going to instill a culture of losing and give up on the season because of a couple injuries. We're going to go double down on our roster, tell our players we believe in them, and bring in more talent to try and win games. That's what the Bengals did. What did the Giants do? They sat on their hands and they brought in nobody. And now this locker room, what's their response going to be to the fact that the Giants didn't bring in anybody? They're going to say, guess we're fine with losing. Guess we're fine with this product. Guess I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. Guess I'll just keep half-assing it because that's the standard that the Giants have set. That's the issue here. It's not about trying to make the playoffs this season. It's about bringing some talent in to ensure that the culture of losing doesn't stay here, to bring in a winning culture, to start building towards something. Without building towards something, you're building towards nothing, and you are nothing. That's what the Giants are right now. They're nothing. It's embarrassing. They should have done something to bring in some talent. David with a super chat. Thanks so much, David, saying, sorry if said already, what GM would you consider? I don't think that I have any general manager candidate ideas just yet. I know that I like the way that the Lions have built their roster, and they have a lot of smart guys in their front office. The Chiefs as well have some smart guys in their front office, and the Vikings. So I would look to those three teams. I think that they're really good with their asset management, and I think they're really good at recruiting coaches. And I think that's a really important aspect here. The teams that have really good front offices, but also long lineages of coaches underneath them that have success, the Giants need to look in that vein. They need to find guys who have an ability to bring in familiar faces to them that are proven good coaches. So look to those teams that aren't just good coaching staff or just good front office, somebody that's got a long sustained track record in both of those things. That's my kind of idea.
Yeah, I mean, how about Ed Dodds from the Colts? This is their assistant GM. They know how to build a roster, seemingly.
They do know how to build a roster. They have a great roster, but again, I don't know about the proven track
Chad
record
Alexander,
of the coaching staff.
20 years with the Ravens, was now he's with the Chargers. That's your team.
Anybody with the Ravens, I would love, but I'm saying find me a team. The Niners have a lot of their coordinators go on to become head coaches, right? The Packers have a lot of their coordinators go on to be head coaches. The Vikings, the Lions have had their coordinators go on to be head coaches. Give me a GM in that kind of office so that we can get a good coaching staff in here. You get what I'm saying?
How about Alec Hallaby, Philadelphia Eagles assistant GM?
Yes,
anyone working.
He was a popular
Rosie.
name last year, so he was a popular name last year too.
Anyone working with the freaking monster of Howie needs to be considered.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they will consider those guys. It'll be interesting.
It will be interesting. I mean, listen. I mean, you just look like Joe Shane. Like, he's had some big hits, right? He's had some big hits. I'm not giving him credit for layups like Neighbors and Carter because those guys were like automatic. It was either Neighbors or Joe Alt, or any of the quarterbacks in that draft class that we missed out on. So, I'm not really going to give him credit for ones that like anyone, like my daughter's year and a half old could have made that pick and it would have been great. So like, I look at the Brian Burns trade. That was a fantastic move. But I will say this, we traded Leonard Williams, who's one of the best run stoppers in the NFL right now for the Seattle Seahawks. Like, maybe in hindsight, that kind of sucks. Him and Dexter Lawrence would have been tremendous together. So like, you look at those moves, like the opportunity cost. And I know we all kind of celebrated the idea that we got a second rounder for Williams, and now our run stopping grades are like worst in the league this year. Have been really bad. So you look at other moves. Signing Darius Slayton was a freaking disaster. Signing James Hudson was a freaking disaster. his whole first draft class was a disaster until Kayvon kind of like, came of age now, and now he's, performing well. So like a lot of his moves took a lot of time to get better. I think I give Dable more props for Jackson Dart, but like Dable's a good quarterbacks coach / like possible OC. He's a horrible head coach. You know what I mean? Like he's really good at identifying quarterback talent. He's just a bad head coach. Like some people just aren't meant for that role, which is why I advocate for the Giants to fire Dable and go get a head coach with experience. I'm done with these first-year head coaches who need 3 years to figure out how to manage the clock. You know what I mean? They need someone with experience to come in here, set the tone, set the standard, have a really good, and that's why like we've talked about Mike McCarthy in the past, and like there's other options. I'm not gonna sit here and say like Mike McCarthy is the guy I want, but he's intriguing because he's experienced. He has a history of winning football games and getting to the playoffs, and he has a trend of getting really, really good coordinators, convincing really, really good assistants to become his coordinators, and then they go on to be head coaches. Dan Quinn, obviously, with the Commanders now, and then you look at Kellen Moore with the Saints and what he did with the Eagles. Like, this is a guy who attracts talent. And in the Giants, they need guys who attract talent. Dable attracts fruit flies, bro. This is bullshit. Like, I'm done with it. It's like, you can't sit here and expect these guys to command respect from other people at this point. So they need guys who have respect, command respect, and will be able to use that as leverage to get good assistance here.
I 100% agree with that. They need to find a way to build a staff that's respectable. They need to find a staff that has a good coach on the defensive side, offensive side, and someone who actually knows how to win from the head coaching position. Another super chat here, though. This one from Michael. Michael was the one who was requesting your presence here in the stream, Alex. So Michael's excited to see you. He says, Alex, if we keep Joe, please no. Do you think we end up like the Jets, as Anthony said earlier? I think we're all tired of how this organization is run. It hurts, to be honest. So let me give you some extra context here as to what Michael's saying, because this was before you joined. So what I said was, somebody asked me, we were talking about Dable could be fired, but Shane could be retained, right? Mm-hmm. And the argument for keeping Shane, there are arguments for keeping him. I won't discredit all of them. He's done some good things, like you even just said. I think you have to look at the whole body work, but he's done some good things. But the main argument is, well, the Giants might have the offensive rookie of the year and defensive rookie of the year this season, right? They might have both of those guys. How do you fire that general manager? And my response is, the New York Jets certainly wish that they did. Joe Douglas drafted the offensive rookie of the year and defensive rookie of the year a couple of years ago with Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson. Fast forward a couple of years, he no longer has that job, and the Jets are tearing down that roster completely, and they just traded away Sauce Gardner. So if you're going to use that argument to retain Joe Shane, you need to understand that you're doing what the Jets have done. And the one team that you shouldn't try to fucking replicate is probably the New York Jets.
Little bros. Let me paint you a picture. Pretend you're not a fan of any team. You're a fan of football. And I told you, there's a team out there that has the offensive rookie of the year, and he's a quarterback, and the defensive rookie of the year as a pass rusher. Would you say, as an objective fan who has no idea what I'm talking about, do you think that team is good? Probably. If your quarterback is the offensive rookie of the year, and want to know who it was last year? Jaden Daniels. And he almost went to the Super Bowl. The Giants are 2-7 and have one of the best young quarterbacks in football and one of the best young pass rushers in football. And we are 2-7. So yeah, Joe, you don't get to run laps. You don't get to be throwing yourself a parade because your team blows. Your team's bad. No matter the fact you have the offensive rookie of the year and defensive rookie of the year. And the thing is, remember when Dable and Shane were hired? Remember what we said? These come as a tandem. This is a tandem. They were hired as a tandem. John Mara was convinced that they would be successful together, that Joe Shane would keep Brian Dable in check with his emotions and help him develop. You know what I mean? They came here as a combination, and people want to keep one of them. Look, I'm not going to sit here and act like Joe couldn't go on to have a much better career, but I thought he learned some lessons that clearly he didn't. The Darius Slayton contract was a disaster. The James Hudson contract was a disaster. You don't get to call yourself good because you drafted Abdul Carter, who was arguably consensus best player in the draft, right? He was consensus, like he was the best player in the draft, but quarterbacks go first. That's always how it's been. Like he could have been the first overall pick. That's how good he was. And Shane just got a layup because he was drafting 5. I guess he was drafting top 5 again, right? Because he drafts top 10 every year. 3 of the last 4 years he's been here is top 10, and we're already on our way towards a 4th one. You know what I mean? So it's kind of it's ugly, man. It's ugly. I really having a hard time justifying why Joe should stay. Like, good GMs are consistent. Good GMs make consistent decisions. They have a formula and an equation that they stand by. Joe Shane completely works off of gut. He doesn't actually have a formula. Everything is random. Everything is reactionary. The Slayton contract was a reaction because he couldn't get the guy he wanted in free agency. Slayton was the last guy available. James Hudson was the last swing tackle available. He's completely reactionary half the time. You can't have a GM that doesn't have a plan. He just reacts to the market. And then you end up taking and overpaying players that do not deserve it, right? You have to go into the situations with the plan. Russell Wilson was plan C, dude. Russell Wilson was plan C. You know what I mean? Like, they don't actually have plans. They wait for the market to react, and then they react to that, which is not good enough. You have to be proactive. You have to be standing your ground. And the reason now he's reactionary is because he's lost all leverage, because teams know he's desperate. So now he doesn't have a leg to stand on. Everybody knows the game he's playing. Everyone's too familiar with his style now. So, there's a lot of problems with Joe Shane. I do not think that he's consistent enough to be a good GM. I do not think that he is capable of putting together a winning formula. And to be quite honest with you, I'm quite concerned that head coaches that want to interview here are going to look at Joe and say, he's on his last leg too. If they keep him, he's still on his last leg. He's still trying to prove himself. Do I want to go down with that ship, Anthony? Do I want to go down with that ship? I wouldn't. If I was a good head coach and there was multiple opportunities available, I'd be scouring the market. I'm not going to go latch onto Joe Shane's coattails. And then if he gets fired and a new GM gets hired, then he might want his own guy. You know what I mean? Like, nobody wants to inherit head coaches and coaching staffs. So I think you have to get rid of both of them. Logically, I think that's what makes the most sense.
I completely agree. I think everybody needs to be held accountable for the way the last 3 seasons have gone. That 2022 season was a flash in the pan, obviously. Brian Daboll, head coach of the year. Why doesn't he hold on to that? Why can't you give him the credit? I mean, if you're going to award Joe Shane extra seasons to run this team that's been terrible the last 3 years because he had a couple of guys bring home some trophies, well, Brian Daboll brought home a trophy. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's the same backwards logic. Look at the entirety, not the one flash in the pan moment. Look at the entire body of work. The entire body of work just isn't good enough. And like I said at the top of the show before you got here, Alex, this is a wins-loss business. This is a wins and losses business. The Giants have done nothing but lose the last 3 seasons. They've started each of the last 3 seasons 2-7. That's insane. 2-7, 2-7, 2-7. That's through their first 9 games in each of the last 3 years. That's unacceptable. And because it's a wins and losses business, that is the exact stat and metric that you need to judge them by. You can't judge them by, I mean, even if you do judge them by like Pro Bowlers and All Pros, Alex, they don't have many of those anyway. So I don't know. It is what it is, man. We do have one last super chat here before we do wrap up from Jaden saying Daves will be the Eagles offensive coordinator next year, unfortunately. That's so true, man. He loves Jalen Hurts. He's probably going to go over there and win a Super Bowl, and all of us Giants fans are going to be stuck in misery, aren't we?
Yeah, I appreciate the super chat, man. I mean, listen, it's possible. It's totally possible. He's a much better coordinator than he is a head coach. That's evident. I don't think that his career is even close to over. I think somebody will come in and say, like, work with my young quarterback. And I know he wants to work with Jackson Dart, and I'm sure I'll have a great relationship with him. But, like, I could see the Jets looking at him and being like, yo, come be our QB coach for our new quarterback or something, like, you know what I mean? Like, who knows? Or the offensive coordinator, who knows? Like, a team out there with a young quarterback, the Titans, there's going to be plenty of opportunity. So, that's kind of where I'm at with it. That's where I feel like Daboll's best days are probably ahead of him, and in the near future, not maybe, he had a lot of great days with Josh Allen, of course. So, like, that's kind of where He's taken a big step back, but I think he's probably going to get his career back on track with a young quarterback.
Most likely. He was hoping for Jackson Dart to be that quarterback to put his career back on track. Not quite, bro. Michael, thank you for the super chat saying, idea, let's kidnap Dart and sneak him out. Love him. What if we kidnap Joe Shane and Brian Dable and sneak them out the back door? And, you ever seen The Irishman? I'll stop there.
Kidnap Dart, sneak him out, love him. Where does he go at this point? They'll find him. It's brutal, man. The reason that the Giants have to move on is you just look at the Drake May equation. Just they fired Rod Mayo. They cut their losses after one season. They knew what they had. They positioned him to be successful, and there you have it. He is successful. He's an MVP candidate right now. So the Giants would be out of their damn minds to not clean house and say whatever we do next is in the best interest of Jackson Dart, not Brian Dable, not Joe Shane, not John Mara, not this guy, not that guy. It is whatever's in the best interest of Jackson Dart needs to be the priority. And I personally think that John Mara needs to hire a third party to come in here and objectively give analysis. This cannot be the Tim McDonald show or the Mara family nepotism show. They need to have objective analysis about what to do because they have run this organization into the ground. So I personally think they need a third party. And that's where it should start. And I think part of that third party should be no new coaches unless it's somebody that is that freaking good. He's that capable of being a head coach, not a coordinator, but a head coach. And we prefer somebody with experience. That's where I would be going. That's where the benchmark would start, in my opinion.
I'd prefer experience too, but let's see who's out there. Let's see what the coordinators and the coaches that are on the, in the pool. Let's see what it looks like. It's going to be a good pool this year, though. One way or another, it's going to be really good. There's going to be some interesting firings this season because it is such a crazy year so far in the NFL. So there's going to be some interesting firings, and I think that somebody might shake free. And also, the Giants are positioned to be maybe the most attractive destination with a rookie quarterback with a lot of promise. So we'll see how it goes. Listen, they tried to go down this route in 2020. They fired Shermer. Firing Shermer was not the mistake that they made. Hiring Joe Judge was the mistake. Had they hired somebody better, Dan Campbell was hired in 2020. Had they hired Dan Campbell, the Giants would be a very successful team right now, I think. But this time around, you have to learn from the Drake May situation. Not be afraid of the Daniel Jones situation and say, we can't do that. We did that to Jones. We screwed up his development. No. The New England Patriots supercharged the development of Drake May. That's how you need to look at it. Let's supercharge the development of Jackson Dart. And let's clean house. That's what I need to see. Just another disappointing day as a New York Giants fan as the trade deadline comes and goes and the New York Giants sit on their hands and do absolutely nothing. They didn't trade anybody away. They didn't acquire anybody. They did nothing.
This would be a great opportunity for Deontay Banks to get a sponsorship with Charmin.
Yeah, I think there's quite a few New York Giants who could get a great sponsorship with Charmin Ultra Soft.
Scott, toilet paper, any of them.
So do you think we look better this way for the future? For future reference, let us know in the chat before we log off. If we're doing the streams, do you like us better this way or do you like us better with the full background? I like showing off
myself this close. So. Let me look it up this.
Yeah, I don't know if I like being this close. You can almost see my pores. I'm not crazy about that. So
I could stare into your soul.
Give us your feedback as always. And of course, guys, do make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this live stream. Comment your thoughts down below in the chat if you are live or if you are watching the replay. Do make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new and ring the bell so you don't miss an episode or a live stream. And make sure if you're listening on Apple or Spotify to leave us a 5-star review and go and follow us on all our social media channels at Fireside Giants. I'm about to drop a bunch of memes that I've been cooking to make fun of Joe Shane and the Giants. So go follow Fireside Giants Instagram. We'll catch you all on the next one. Have a good one. And let's go Jackson Dart.
Perfect.